So this is AssetMule. This is the screen that greets you when you log in. And it's essentially our AssetMule template library that you can start, using some templates. You can build on top of them. You can add your brand colors and your own fonts and your own content to them, and have some really awesome assets in a matter of minutes. And I'll go through that full workflow. The other thing I want to point out is we do have the ability to create your own custom templates as well, right? And I'll walk through both creating from one of our templates as well as creating custom templates. But I'm going to start with one of our templates. And just to start, I'm going to choose to build on top of the one pager with video. So what I'm going to do is click copy template. And what that does is it makes a copy of that template that now I can make my own, save in my library for my sales team or any other team members to start using. Now, there are a couple key concepts that are worth walking through on these templates. The first is what we call themes. So, when you select one of these templates, the first thing that you'll probably want to do is add your brand colors and fonts to the template. And you'll see we've done this here. This is our AssetMule theme. And every account comes with 3 standard themes, river, forest, and desert. But you also have the ability to create your own custom theme very, very easily, like we've done with AssetMule. And all you have to do that is put in your website URL, and we'll actually grab the main colors and fonts from your website and apply it to your theme and to the template. So just as an example, if I'm LinkedIn, if that's my company, I can put in linkedin.com and click create theme, and just in a matter of seconds now have a theme for LinkedIn. Now, if I want to adapt this theme further and make it even more customized, I can always go to the themes section of the AssetMule product and edit that theme that I just created and add more accent colors add more colors to the palette. I can then define some styles here. And styles are essentially a combination of a background color, a default font color, and some accent colors. So you can set up 5 different styles. And I'll show you where you can access those in the template. And then you can, update your fonts or set up custom fonts, and then save this as a theme, again, like I did with AssetMule here, that you can start using going forward. So that's the first step, is sort of setting up your theme to start applying to these templates. The next concept that I want to highlight is what we call sections. So you'll see that a template in AssetMule is basically made up of a bunch of sections. We've got this header section, we've got the section below it with a sort of value statement and placeholder for the video and so on. And on the right-hand side of each section, you got the section settings. So this is actually where I can access those styles that I mentioned that are associated with my theme, and I can change the color of each section. I can also increase and decrease padding, and I can move sections down, I can move sections up, I can delete sections from the template, or I can even add new sections to the template. If I wanted to create a 2-column section, I can just add that to the template. I can apply my color, and then I can move that up or to where I want it. I can delete it, and so on. So that's the concept of sections. And then the next concept, which I touched on a little bit earlier, are components. So within each section, you have 1 or more components. So and actually, these are, it's important to point out that these are represented by these icons on the left-hand side of the section. So this heart is our personalized logo component, which represents this logo for logo setup. We've got this sort of like text-looking icon, which represents the paragraph component, or the play button icon, which represents the video component. And similar to sections, if you click on the icon for the component, you pull up the component settings where you can do things like adapt the size of the logos, or make them, change the style of the logo from color grayscale to inverted, and so on. So that's the second main concept that I wanted to point out here. But now that we have those sort of established, we can start building out this template. And I'll start with the personalized logo component and adding our logo and maybe our prospect's logo to the template. So we can do that just by clicking on the placeholder here. And again, similar to the theme, sure, we can upload a logo that we have on the file pretty easily just by clicking this button. But similar to the theme, we want to make this super easy to find logos, especially prospect and customer logos that you want to add here without having to find them on Google, download them, upload them, format them, and so on. So you can actually just put in a website URL. So I'm going to put AssetMule.ai here and click Get Logo, and we'll fetch some logos for you to choose from. And again, if you want to use a different logo, you can always upload it. But this becomes really handy when you're putting in prospect logos. For instance, again, if I'm going to use LinkedIn as an example here, I can put linkedin.com, get logo, and I have a bunch of logos to choose from, and it really speeds up that process. Moving on to the next section, I can replace the placeholder copy with this value statement, with my own. I can add my demo video in here just by clicking on the component and adding a URL to a YouTube video or a Loom video that I want to embed in here, and really just work through the template, adding my own content to it, uploading images and so on. So that's kind of how you would build out this template. But another concept that I want to highlight now are what we call snippets, and I mentioned them earlier. And the idea is, as you're populating content into these components, if this is content that you're going to want to reuse in the future, you can save it as a snippet so you can easily pull it into templates. And that salespeople later, when they're building assets from these templates, they can swap those snippets in and out, right? And the way that you do that is once you put content into the component, if you pull up the component settings, you'll see the snippet section. If you go to the Save tab, you can give that snippet a name, maybe add some tags. So some examples here might be adding a industry that value statement is associated with, or a persona, or a use case. And then you can save that snippet, and then it becomes part of your snippet library, where you can browse through the snippets, or you can filter by those tags that you applied. For instance, I've created a tag for my positioning statements. And then if you want to apply a snippet to the template, you can just click on that and it pulls in that copy. So same thing with the videos here. I can look at all the videos I have here, maybe filter by demo videos. And then if this is the one I want to pull into my template, I can just click on it to pull it in. And then same thing goes with customer logos here. I can pull those in. And as you'll see, it really speeds up the process of creating new templates, but also, as we'll show later in the sales workflow, really helps for allowing sales teams to personalize those assets that they're building, but with pre-approved content. The final thing I'll just mention on this page is, we've heard a lot from our product marketing customers that they want to help their sales team personalize assets, but they still want to sort of have some guardrails to protect the branding and the messaging. So we actually have some permissions here that you can set for that. So you'll see here the ability to lock editing or even lock snippet swapping. So by default, this is open, meaning that the particular component, in this case, the personalized logo component, can be edited by the salesperson, the person that's going to create assets from this template. But if we click lock editing, now they can't edit it, but they can access the snippet library still and swap in other snippets, or we can lock it down completely, right? Where they can't do anything to change that particular component and the content in it. And this gives you really granular controls where maybe you can leave this personalized logo component open so that they can add their prospect's logo, but maybe you want to lock this value statement down completely and even lock the snippet swapping so that that is going to be pretty consistent across one-pagers. And then, for instance, with the video, you may want to lock editing so they can't just add a different video, but they can access the snippet library and swap alternative videos in there. So component by component, you can be really granular in the controls that you give them. And when we go to the sales workflow in a second, I'll show you what that looks like on their end. But before we do that, we talked about now building from one of our templates. What we see with a lot of our customers is they'll start with our templates and very quickly they'll get creative and want to create their own custom templates as well. And you can do that by clicking Create Template here. And what it does is it just gives you a blank canvas that you can start to work with, and start by just adding a section to the template and maybe adding one of your colors. And then you have the library of pre-designed components that you can apply to that section. And again, these are things like headers or quotes or images or that personalized logo component that, again, if you just click on any of these icons, just pulls that into the template. And again, we can start building this out just like we did from one of our AssetMule templates by adding the logo. In this case, I'm actually going to leave this open for my sales team to add the logo that they want in there. But then I can add another section, for instance, with a, let's do a paragraph component here. And then I may want to center it and then pull in this snippet here that I've saved, like this header and subhead. And then let's take a look at some of our more interesting, sort of exciting components. So I'm going to do another one column section, and this time I'm going to do an embed code component. And what this allows you to do is embed some code in here to pull in maybe a widget from another tool that you're using. For instance, a really great example are interactive product demos. So you may be familiar with tools like Storylane and Novatic and HowDoYo, where you can build these interactive product demos that you maybe embed on your website instead of a screenshot or a sort of standard video. You can do the exact same thing here. And in fact, I've saved a couple examples as snippets. So I'm going to pull in this Storylane demo that I built. And again, it's just sort of pasting in the embed code here. And then now, again, instead of an image or a video, my prospects that view this one pager can step through an actual interactive tour of the product and get a feel for it right from the one pager. Continuing to build this out, maybe I add another one column section. I'm going to make it black, and I'm going to add the logo grid and put in our logos. And then maybe another interesting component with a one column section is our pricing tiers. And again, you can add content directly in here, and everything's adaptable. But if you have some snippets, you can easily pull that in as well. And then I'll do one more example here with a another embed and another use case. We talked about interactive product demos, but you can actually also embed your Calendly calendar, your Chili Piper calendar, your HubSpot calendar in here just by grabbing the embed code like I've done here. And then now your prospect can actually book a meeting with you directly from the asset. So that's just to show you how quickly you can design these custom templates, pulling in components, adding your content, maybe pulling in some snippets, and have something that you can save to your template library and for your sales team to use. So let's actually do that. And let's go to the template library now. And what you'll see is instead of going to the AssetMule tab, if I were a salesperson wanting to build from our own sort of custom templates, or branded templates, I should say, I would go to the team tab. And now I can see all these templates that I can work with. And maybe, actually, I'm going to go to the personal tab in this case. Maybe I want to sort of build a interactive one pager, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create an asset from that template. And what that does is it pulls it in now where all the information that maybe my product marketer has already set up for me in the template is in here, but now I can do that last mile personalization for my particular prospect. So I can, in this case, add the logo for that prospect. And let's say I'm selling to LinkedIn. Again, I can put it linkedin.com, click get logo and just pull that in. And as I showed on the template building, maybe the product marketer has locked certain sections. So they've locked this, I can't edit this. They've locked it for snippet swapping, so I can't sort of edit it. But they've kept other things open like this placeholder here where I replace prospect with LinkedIn. And then one more example is, let's say this quote at the bottom, and they've locked it for editing. So I can't rewrite the quote, but they've kept the snippet swapping open. I can, again, click on the component settings and access the snippet library. Maybe I want to filter by a different persona, right? That quote that's on there right now is for a sales leader. Maybe I want to filter by product marketing and pull in a different quote. So that's just showing you how very quickly and easily you can sort of do the little last minute mile personalizations that you want. And then if this looks good to go, I can go ahead and give it a name. Let me call it AssetMule for LinkedIn. I'm going to save that asset. And then maybe before I want to send it to a prospect, I want to preview it, just make sure it looks all good here. Everything looks good and ready to go. And then when I'm ready, I can go ahead and share it. And we actually have just introduced some new options for sharing. So when you hover over the share button, what we had before was share link, and you can still do that. That just copies the link to the trackable live asset to your clipboard so that you can paste it in a LinkedIn message or in an email. But now we also have two other options, the ability to create a screenshot of the asset, or my favorite is actually generating an animated screenshot. So I'm actually going to choose that in this case by just clicking that. Now it's copied to my clipboard. And if I go to my email, and let's say I draft out an outbound email, a follow-up email or an outbound email, however I'm thinking about using this particular template or asset, I can just paste that in there, and you'll see it generates a animated GIF really for the prospect to see. And we really feel this is going to generate sort of excitement, interest, and drive them to that page where now they'll be able to see all those personalized and interactive elements, which will ultimately drive them to book a meeting. So that's kind of the idea here. But let's say that I am that prospect, and then I clicked on the link there. So this is what the live asset is going to look like, right? It's personalized for them. They can step through the interactive demo, right? They can, take a look at, that quote that I pulled in, right? And they can even book a meeting with me right from it using the calendar or the book a meeting button. And what's awesome about AssetMule is all of those actions that we just took as the viewer of the asset, the prospect, are tracked by AssetMule. So if I go back to my email, I can see now that the salesperson in this case would have gotten an email notifying them that, hey, somebody just viewed your AssetMule for LinkedIn asset, right? So there's activity there. There's somebody on the other side that's interested in this. But if I go back to AssetMule as well, and I go to the assets tab, right? Here's that AssetMule for LinkedIn asset. I can now see one view from one viewer. And if I click on the stat button to go to the stats, the detailed stats page, I can now see all those actions that we just took, right? We viewed the asset, or in this case, the prospect viewed the asset. They clicked on the interactive product demo, right? The embed in the third section. They clicked on the Calendly widget in there, the embed in the 16th section. Finally, they clicked on the book a meeting button, right? And these sort of insights are extremely valuable for both product marketers and for sales reps. So for product marketers, it's great to see the high level metrics and which templates are being used and which assets are, driving the most engagement, to really start thinking about what other assets we can arm our sales team with. But for the sales rep, it's really great to get insights on, first of all, which accounts should you be prioritizing? Who's actually engaging with your content? Who's showing that intent, right? Or that interest. So prioritization is one use case, but the other is you can see what they actually embedded with on the asset. So they clicked on some interactive demos, the interactive demo. Maybe we follow up with some other interactive demos with other use cases. We know that sort of resonates with them. So it can really give you insights on how best to engage them going forward. But that's the kind of quick walkthrough of AssetMule. And just to recap, we started with our AssetMule templates and how to build from those templates by adding your brand theme, your logo, your content, to the templates as a product marketer. We also showed how to create templates from scratch, right, using the visual template builder and the library of pre-designed components. We then saved those templates to the template library, and as a salesperson, we created an asset from those templates, and we're able to personalize that asset by adding the logo, swapping in some snippets, and so on. We then shared that asset with a prospect, and then we're able to track how that prospect engaged with the asset, and the complete timeline of actions they took on the page.